So we have a C from Gorilla Biscuit.
Right.
And he is real strong vegan with clear mission. I want to do something good for him. He's gonna take home tofu omelet for his wife.
Yeah, she
and
loves the tofu omelet,
right.
you had said.
Yeah, and
But
OG
why don't
burger.
we do dessert on this one? Because
Yeah.
I'm selfish, and I love the desserts. So,
All right.
what do you think?
Yeah, okay, desserts. I'll have cheesecake, I'll have carrot cake, and
Right.
I'll have roll cake. That's gonna be good.
I'm ready. And then what about for him? I'm ready. Those all cakes for me. Good morning, everyone. I say good morning often because we tape so early in the morning.
And you
rock
can
roll
see
and
those
comedy.
faces here.
It is morning.
Yes, and then not the morning with the OU in it. It's the morning with the happiness in it. I'm Eddie Brill. I'm the host of OG Talk OG for the Organic Grill. Speaking of the Organic Grill, my co-host and dear friend Vlad Grinberg, the VG of OG. And we're here bringing together the passionate and the compassionate. People who come here and eat and enjoy the amazing food and ambiance. And today we have our good friend Civ with us. Civ,
Good
we're
morning.
very happy to have
Thank you,
here.
thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Civ of the band Civ, of the band that was named after Quaaludes. We have, we met the other night, which was very nice. We met here with your wife, who has a shop around the corner.
Yes.
Right.
She works right around the block on 9th Street.
Yeah.
9th
So
Street Vintage.
is that how you found this place? Right.
No. I lived on 5th and B in the late 80s and for a while. And I've been coming to Organic Grill on and off. I mean, honestly, more since Angelica's closed.
Right,
Yeah,
that's true.
I know.
So it's great that there's still, places like this where you can get vegan food and it's organic and it's got an East Side vibe. You know what I mean?
And you used to go to Prana as well, right?
I used to go to Prana. That was like
Prana was a health food store right
Yeah.
next to us. That was the reason I opened this place, not knowing that Prana is going to close after a year.
Right, yeah.
You closed them. I actually
Unfortunately, our landlord next door closed it.
the Prana was like the punk rock health food store.
Unbelievable.
And squatter punk store, a vegan store. I was a West Side guy. I worked at Down to Earth. I worked there as a stock boy, then juice bar, cook, and then register, then order stuff. I did everything there. And I
How
thought
old
that
were you when you were working at that place?
I started there when I was probably 18 or 19. I worked there for a few years.
Were you eating this food at that time?
Yeah, I've been vegan since the late 80s. I went vegetarian in 86 or 87. And then
You know that everybody I talk to about becoming vegan and vegetarian, Priscelli, they all mention your name.
those guys were on. I went the first time I left New York was in 1987. I went on tour Youth of Today, the band, and with Richie Birkenhead, John Priscelli, Ray Capo, Mike Judge, Walter Schreifels, and this guy RJ. And we were kids. They were like 22, and they were like they were the upper statesmen. They were in charge at 22.
They babysat you.
Yeah. Well, no, they just beat us up and sent us go
Well, that's
do
what
our
older
bidding.
brothers and sisters
Yeah.
do.
But we were gone for like 2 months. I left New York with $200, and I had the most money. So for like 2 months on the road. So we had many adventures together and stole a lot of food from health food stores because we were literally starving. I think
Well, at least you're stolen from health food stores.
Yeah, but the best thing about it, and this was a crazy thing, we literally had like no money. So we'd run in, eat things off the shelves, and then the people would ask us what we were doing. There's 7 guys with shaved heads, and no clothes on, and they would be like, "What are you guys doing?" And we tell them we were, vegetarians or straight edge or whatever. And then they would feed us and give us food to go. So it was like the mom and pop health food stores, made us survive.
Well,
I
the food
agree.
itself is
It's so cool.
compassionate. It's a compassionate way to live,
Yes.
to take care of yourself in the world. And a lot of people look at rock and roll or comedy or the arts, and they don't think of the compassion that goes behind it. And what feeds it, literally, is that. And then so a person opens a store like Prano or Organic Grill, Angelica's. and they're looking out for the people. So obviously you
Yeah.
go out
That
on the
store
road.
in particular, you are absolutely right. There are such a rich history of
Oh,
people
yeah.
coming to. I remember you. So you knew Bruce, the
Yeah.
owner.
I worked for Bruce
He's a
in
wonderful
at
guy.
a HIMSA.
He became a preacher and he moved to Vermont.
That's
After
amazing.
his wife passed away.
Good. He needed to relax. He was a
Yeah.
high-strung dude. I worked for him for a minute as a dishwasher at a HIMSA, and this
What
was
was the HIMSA?
a HIMSA was a HIMSA cafe. He had Prana, and he had a bookstore too.
Right.
What was that? Ayurvedic. It was like an Ayurvedic. I can't remember. It
Right,
was-
right.
And HIMSA was the restaurant, and John Watson, the original singer for Agnostic Front,
Right.
he was a cook there.
Wow.
And I worked with John in the kitchen just a few times as a dishwasher, and they had a small window that faced the street, and it was the same thing. It was like a block away from Prana. I can't remember exactly
They
what
had
it was. On the side street.
always full of cats.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Store.
But one night I was washing dishes and I turned around and HR from the Bad Brains, his head was just in the
Oh.
window,
Right.
and John would just turn around, make a plate of food, and like hand it out the window. So there was always that devotional service to like
It
feeding
was so
your
funny. I remember
friends.
Bruce comes to me one day and he's like, "Listen, I'm buying this maple syrup, and I don't have enough to buy it. Would you share it with me and pay for half of yours?" I said, "Sure." So little do I know, there is a guy comes on a truck that is working on a wood stove, literally, and the smoke is coming out of it. And he stops right here. He's like, "I gotta go." He just leaves his stuff and goes. It was so
Amazing.
funny. And apparently Bruce already left him money and everything. But
Yeah.
the guy just from the woods coming out
Yeah.
and leaves his stuff and goes.
It doesn't matter what part of the world or country you're from. You know, where I go, I travel the world, you know, and I have to find vegan places.
Yes.
You know, and luckily now there's the internet, but back then there was no way to, like, I would go to Salt Lake City and then there's like a raw food restaurant. You know, I'm like, really? Oh, they do have them. The only place I got stuck was in Indiana. I was in Indianapolis, and I couldn't find raw food at the time. And I went on the radio, you know, to plug the shows, and I said, you know, the one thing I can't find is, and then all of a sudden the phone started ringing. Hey, I'm a raw food chef. I'm a vegan chef. So
That's-
everyone looks out for each other.
It's so much. It's yeah.
It's a community, definitely.
We talk about it like sometimes where like it's so easy now, especially with the internet, and then like how everybody's kind of catching up.
Happy
But
Cow and all that.
yeah,
stuff.
you go back 30 years or more in Europe, you know, like there's so many horror stories from tour of like, you know, just not eating, and like, you know, one time, if I'll give you one vegan horror story. I was we're on tour with Gorilla Biscuits in Europe. You know, there's no phones. Everything's by map. We're kind of doing it ourselves. We're in a van. We're in like some fucking Dracula castle, in like literally like in
Guys,
the hills.
let me bring you some dessert so the sugar starts.
Yeah, let's
kicking
do
in,
it.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we haven't eaten for like a day or two. They're like, we're gonna order you guys pizzas, and we're playing in a squat with dogs and like, you know, fires and garbage cans inside.
It's like family.
Like not a glorious scene, but we're just like, okay. So I'm like, can I get one with just some vegetables on it, no cheese? And you know, again, I'm in the middle of nowhere in 1989, and it comes and it's covered in cheese and pepperoni.
No, of course.
So I literally break down. I'm fucking crying. I'm yelling. It's raining. I take my own shoes off and throw them into the woods in the dark. And this is where
And
food.
that helps you how?
Exactly. So then I had to go walk in my socks to find my shoes
Oh, no, right.
in the mud.
Ah.
So I learned not to throw my shoes anymore, the only shoes I had. But the level of ease now, being a vegan or eating in any kind of consciousness or vegetarianism, is we're in a very lucky place right now.
We are.
Especially
I'll
in
tell-
New York.
Oh yeah.
One time I was on the road and I was at a very a locale that was not easy to find, and I'm there and I said, "You have no salads or anything?" And they went, "No, but there's in town, 40-minute drive in town. There's two
Only 40
places
minutes.
to go." So I go to the first place and it's just chili. That's their salad.
That's salad,
It's chili, meat chili.
A bean
Right.
bean salad.
Bean salad. And then I go across the street. Now they actually have a salad on the menu. But the salad is the lettuce that rabbits won't eat, chicken, and croutons and cheese. And
They were in charge of the
not
diet.
judging them on it, but they're, the person on this. But I say to this person, can I have a salad, but no cheese and no chicken and no croutons? I'm trying to be healthy. So I said, I'm a vegetarian. And she went, oh.
Oh, poor baby.
Yeah.
I was gonna give you some
Too
bacon.
bad.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so I said, do you have any like mushrooms? Or she goes, how about chicken? And I was like, oh,
Forget it.
Yeah.
That's when you just have to decide to starve.
Yes. Okay. Speaking of starving, we're not going to starve anymore this morning.
Right.
because
This
that's
is
what we have left.
raw dessert for you.
Yes,
Right.
that's perfect.
This is carrot cake for
everybody else.
for me or Eddie, and this is a cheesecake for Eddie.
Okay. All of a sudden, it's all Eddie. I can't have raw. But start digging in.
I'll have a piece of raw,
Yes.
and please feel free to share
No,
raw
this
with
is yours.
me.
This is yours.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. So let's
I do
find out
raw.
a little bit about the past. So when you start out as a young child, you're in Long Island,
No,
right? No. Because I remember reading about Long Island. You were born
I
in-
spend a lot of time in Long Island, but I never lived there.
Okay.
I work in Long Island, but for some reason I just would never move there.
but how did you meet your bandmates? We read it.
Well,
that it was in high school.
we're all from Queens.
Okay.
Ah.
I grew up in Jackson Heights. So I met those guys probably in, I'll give you the backstory. My friend Danny Zick was the first person out of our friends in high school that went vegetarian. And he was the first guy to kind of get into punk rock. We were like white trash metal kids, hung out in like the local park. And
Who were
then
your influences back then?
I had an older brother, so he introduced me to like stuff that he was introduced to. I was really into like Van Halen and Sabbath and like that kind of stuff. My brother went to every concert, and he was 4 years older than me. So I was playing 16 when I was 12. You know what I mean?
Gotcha,
I did my shit early. But then by the time I was about 14 or 15, hip hop in New York started to come up. And I used to write graffiti when I was a kid, so I got into that culture. And my neighborhood was very segregated. There was like a Spanish neighborhood, like the Spanish and black neighborhood, and then there was like the Italian and Irish neighborhood. And there was, I try to explain this to my daughter, like we watch like the Bronx Tale, and she's like, that shit's so far-fetched. I'm like, no,
No, that was my life. in
New York
Brooklyn.
was divided. There was strict, borders.
Yeah.
And you didn't cross those borders unless you had a pass, which graffiti and hip hop gave me a pass.
That's so interesting.
So
So you had friends on another side.
Yeah,
that
like-
they respected you.
like white boys were allowed to
That's
go
why I
and
said
hang
it's
out.
80s.
We were allowed to go and hang out in like there was a 85th Street Park, and that was more of like a hip hop spot, and we were allowed to go there because some of us danced or some of us wrote. Nobody rapped then, but we were into, some guys were break dancers and some guys were graffiti guys. So if you could write and you would do crazy shit at 12, 13, 14 years old, like break night and go write or do a piece on a paddleball wall or on a
Well,
street.
tell us about break night. That right there sounds like.
Oh, breaking, that was just when you would tell your parents you were going to go sleep at someone's house, and then
You break off. From
you
that.
would just be out all night writing.
Right.
And me and my friend Lewis, one time we slept on his roof after a night of first we went and watched a double feature in Times Square of I think it was, who was the one with the mask? Friday the 13th, was that Jason?
Yeah, Jason had the mask.
We watched a double feature of that in Times Square in like the early 80s, and like sitting in a Times Square movie theater with everyone smoking weed and screaming at the thing. It was a different time in New York.
Right.
It was glorious.
But it inspired you to go write later.
Yeah, we had to.
happens in
We also had to go into the layups, so we would walk in the train tracks. But again, this is like a New York that doesn't exist anymore. So you're like, 13 and you're in the train tracks with homeless. And
Folks.
And how do you guys decide to start a band?
that came after. Oh well, basically the transition was hip hop got cool, then it got a little commercialized, and it was kind of like for everybody again, so it wasn't as interesting for me. And things happen, I think when you're young, things happen so quick. Like a week feels like a year, you know, so it's like you get these long days. I think Stephen Hawkins talked about that, like where when a kid is has like a full summer day and they do everything because their days are longer. So I think when you're younger, your days feel longer and they are longer. But we, so then Danny, my friend Danny, and our tastes were changing too, where I was into like new wave girls. That was appealing to me.
I don't laugh, that's same here.
And you know, all the neighborhood Puerto Rican girls always will have a place in my heart from like the hip hop days. But the you know, the new wave girls, it was a whole different thing. So, and that led us into going into the city, you know, from Queens, and we got into like new wave and punk rock. And then again, my friend Danny, he got the first Agnostic Front record, Victim in Pain, with the Gatefold. He called me up. He's like, "Yo, come over."
So many people mentioned this as a
It's
first
the-
experience, huh?
He opened it up and we put it on, and it was just like, you know, Stigma's there and just shaved head, and Roger's got a chain around his waist, and you know, it's just like, what the fuck is this? Like, where is this? So that was my new hip hop. It was like, this is some underground shit I don't know about. So this was like 85.
So none of you guys had any experience with instruments?
No, I didn't. I mean, I had no intention of singing. I mean, it was just for us to walk into CB's the first time was like climbing Mount Everest.
I read that you were
so
not
scared.
exactly singing material at first, right? That you were like getting
you were
so
like-
nervous that you were
You
looking.
were like Andy Partridge to me, you know, just looking
I was
down
looking
and
at the
nervous.
wall. I would face the wall. Well, I didn't even want to sing. I had no intentions of singing. It was my vindictive, evil nature, because a friend of my Walter said, "Hey, I'm going to start a band." He moved from Ohio, I think, somewhere in the middle of Ohio, and Walter moved here, and we met. And he wasn't used to New York, kind of like the small things about New York. And I didn't really get his thing at first. I remember walking down the street with him one time and I made a joke and he was just like, "Oh my God, you're a dick." And I got in his face and I was like, "What the fuck did you say?" And he was just like laughing. He's like, "You're a dick." I was like, "What?" You know, I got pissed. And he was like, "No, I mean, like, that's funny." I was like, "Well, we don't say that.
Right.
Like, we don't call each other dicks when we're funny."
For no reason.
Yeah, I was like, all right, now I understand, but that wasn't
In
that
England,
cool.
they use the C word like that.
Yeah.
And that's really funny, but you say it in America, it
Oh,
just
you're
shows over.
forget it. You
But
done.
what a
Say
lucky
goodnight.
coincidence to have those guys together, like
Well-
next to each other. Walter, you,
Well,
Sally.
I mean, that's the thing.
it's-
I don't really. We don't see it that way. We're just idiots that
Yeah.
are friends, you know. But the
What
so
do you call it, each other?
oh yeah, we just well, what happened was he said, "You want to start a band with me?" Because we were just getting along, and as he said it, this other kid that was with us, he was like, "I'll sing," and I was just
Who are
pissed.
you?
Yeah, he tried to jump my ship, and I was like, I didn't even want to sing, but just to be a dick, I was like, "Yo, he asked me, I'll sing."
Right.
And he's like, "You don't want to sing?" I said, "Well, now I do."
Yeah.
So I was like, "I don't know how to sing," and he was like, "I don't care. It's punk rock. Who cares?" I said, "All right."
But you were writing at the time, kind of, right? You were.
I was writing, but Walter's writing and writing to music and lyrics together. Again, this wasn't like a thing. This wasn't like a thing we knew was going to happen or like there was any intentions.
And that's the way it should be. I
It
mean,
just happened
right,
organically.
that's how life is,
But-
organically.
Yeah, organic. But when
Yeah.
he was writing, and at first it was like, all right, let's write lyrics to this song. But again, like no musical experience. The weird thing is my father was a musician, but I didn't know this until my 20s. He went to New York School for Music and he played saxophone and clarinet
And when did you find this out?
in like my
eventually?
20s when I was already like in a band and
And
like
what do you
sick.
think that? What do you think he didn't?
He shut it all down. He was a really good athlete too, but he married my mom at like 20 and just gave everything up and started driving a truck and he started his life of suffering. So he was like, "Oh, that's it, time to suffer."
Right. Isn't it
Why
funny
should I
how-
enjoy music anymore?
But the weird thing is it was so shut down that there was no music in the house. There was no records. There was no record player.
Wow.
He just turned it off.
So
And
where
then-
did you find the music? Just through friends and going to friends' houses?
Because I was asked, and my life has become interesting and fun for me by saying yes.
Right.
I learned that early on. You just got to say yes to things that if you're apprehensive about it, I mean, you have to think about it a little bit more now, but in the beginning, it was just like, yeah, we'll do that, I'll do that.
All right, so let's talk about CBGBs. Now, for me, CBGBs for me was, 1979, 80, 81. I'm older. And I'm in
Good
this
for you.
neighborhood, and, I got, every night we were there.
That's so
What
awesome.
was it like in your era? What was the first time
first
you went in there?
time-
It's like going to a ball game and smelling the grass and...
Well, the first time I went, we went for my friend Danny. We went for his birthday, and we got fucking wasted in Queens on wine coolers.
Bartles and James.
It was one of those things, but we didn't like beer that much, and we weren't able to achieve liquor yet. So we were drinking wine coolers at the train station, and then we were pre-gaming, and then we went to CB's, and we thought it was 24-hour slam dancing. We didn't know. So there was no information. So we got there, and there was tables set up, and there was a couple of other poser dudes with makeup and spike gloves and things.
What year was this?
This was '85.
Okay.
And we're sitting at the table and we're waiting for some shit to pop off, and there was a band called Woofin' Cookies playing. And it was, it was punk, but it wasn't really anything that we were that into. And there was no slam dancing, and the waitress came over and she was like, all right, listen, I know you guys are underage. I don't care. If you're gonna drink, pay me, and you can drink. And we were like,
But just don't woof any cookies.
So then it's our first foray into ordering drinks at a bar. So I don't know what I drink. So I did some smooth stuff. I ordered what my dad drank. Then I ordered what my brother would drink. Then I even, at the end, when I was really drunk, I ordered what Eddie Murphy drank.
Well, what did he drink?
A White Russian.
Okay.
So
And
after
so from
a
the
7
morning,
and yeah, so I was a novice. So 7 and 7.
That was what I did because I heard my father say 7 and 7.
Yeah,
So
that's a
sounded
dad
cool.
drink.
Yeah.
So I had a 7 and 7, a rum and coke, then a White Russian on
Very
top of
good
about
combination.
15 wine coolers. So there was a lot of throwing up on the way home. But Danny
I think
threw
I
up.
stepped in some of that when I
Oh,
went to
God.
CBGBs.
CB's was the best for throwing up or blood
or piss or
I've laid in all of it. One time I got hit at CB's during a show and I fell and my hand went under and through the floor. Remember the floor had the
Oh my.
they would fix holes in the floor with pieces of sheet metal.
Right. Oh.
But there was a hole and I went about 2 feet in and I came out with a piece of wood stuck under my fingernail
My God.
like this, and I was just like, do you know what is on this piece of wood? There is
This
so
is where
much.
the damn television puked.
Yeah,
Right
there's
on.
so much puke and piss and every body fluid on
Iggy
this.
Pop and everybody.
And I went in the bathroom and laid on the pissy floor and pulled it out. It was bleeding all over, and it was. Somebody thought I was Doug Holland from the Cro-Mags, and they were like, "Yo, Doug, when are you guys playing next?" And I was like, I'm not Doug Holland. Yeah,
Piss off.
I'm just trying to bleed and not pass out.
All right, so
But
you got
I'm really curious. You were young, but still, there is such a understanding of a mission of you in music. At least that's how I see it. I understand it wasn't exactly you, but this thing about cats and dogs. When this came out, for those who don't know, this was almost like an anthem to veganism and compassion.
Well, that was the thing. We were
How old were you?
we were young. We were 16, 17, but when we started, doing the band stuff. But the thing with the vegetarian thing started early, but even in 89 when we went, 87 when I toured with Youth of Today, those guys were still eating fish and dairy and
When
doing
this What
stuff.
No More came out?
That came out in 88 or 89.
So yours was first?
No. We wrote it after, but I was already vegetarian before other people.
Dogs and Cats.
Cats and Dogs was 89. I think No More was probably 89 too, right? Or 89. But we were already, I was already quietly indignant because there was like things on tour like, if it has no eyes, it must die. Like eating clams or eating mussels. And I was like on my high horse and I was just like, yo, fuck that shit. Yeah, that's like my John Joseph. Yo, fuck that shit. So I just, I took it, I don't know, man. I took it serious from the beginning. I still take it seriously. And I mean, same thing with the straight edge thing. I'm like the only fool that's still straight edge. You know what I mean? So it's like, whatever. You know what it was? Hardcore gave me, and punk rock gave me my life lessons, and so I feel like a person who might not have evolved past 17 years old because I still kind of live the same way and I still believe the same things. So I don't know if that's a detriment or if that's a good thing.
It's got to be a good thing.
But someone's got to be
kind of foundation.
Someone's got to stay consistent, and that's how I feel about the hardcore scene. Where it's like I've talked to John Joseph about this too, where it's like, there's fucking rules in life. There's rules in scenes. There's rules.
There are some things you don't do, right?
Yeah, there's things you don't do, and there's things that don't deviate. And as the older guard in this, we have to keep true to our words and the foundations of this scene.
And at the same time,
to
look at the new generation,
people,
and to look at the new generation, see what they're bringing.
Yeah.
As well.
But I mean, you need a foundation. It's like getting into punk rock, and the same thing with hip hop, any underground movement. You have to know the beginnings. You have to know your history, and you have to respect your history. Like if you don't know like every Minor Threat song, then you're not like a hardcore kid.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
I so agree with you because we almost like giving each other this license that we can flip flop anytime. Oh, I changed my mind.
No, yeah,
Okay, or no, I don't think this anymore.
I had this conversation with Jordan, the guy who owns Revelation Records, because there was this guy from California who was, so preachy, so in your face, straight edge guy. Then he started drinking. Then he opened a bar, and it's like, and I was like, you can't do that. And he's like, oh, dude, that's some bullshit. That's like a fascist attitude. I'm like, no, anybody else can do that.
Right.
But if you're the guy who's spearheading a movement, I don't feel like you can flip. I mean, of course you can.
You're responsible for people.
Yeah, you're responsible for you're responsible for your words and you're responsible for your actions, but you're also responsible for pushing this forward or carrying the torch. If you want to pass the torch, one thing, but then you can't just flip and say, "Oh, that shit was stupid," and now it's cool to like get wasted.
Oh, that's so important to hear because I'm.
Or maybe I'm just a dick.
When I was telling,
but that's what your friend told you. You were a dick.
When I was telling Eddie about you coming, I was like, Eddie, every time I hear the gossips and news, oh, Gorilla Biscuits are gonna get together. Gorilla Biscuits coming. So people are still having this image of you guys being leaders and being inspiration for everyone.
Well, I think what happened when
that's what I told your wife.
Yeah.
And she said the same thing. He doesn't know how important.
I think it's stupid to hear that stuff about yourself or anybody. I mean, I have people that I'm, a fan of or like inspired by, but when someone's saying it to me, it makes me brutally uncomfortable because it's like there was no hierarchy. There was like no hierarchy to that degree when I came into this music scene,
but you have to understand.
I learned from Jimmy and like John and Harley and like those rules that like the audience and the band is all the same. It's interchangeable. There's no separation.
And Jimmy Gestapo was coming to the bar, and they were strip searching him. They couldn't even recognize it was him. I was like, those kids don't even know.
Oh, you don't know the glory.
But yeah, what I was saying, you have to understand that as a fan, as a kid, people want the Beatles to get back together for all these years. It's just a nostalgia thing. But the most important thing I think is that you realize we're in now. And then now you have this foundation that you've built, and then you want generations to take that. Look at soul music from that wasn't even popular in America until it went to England.
Yes.
So you look at there has to be some kind of hierarchy. It has to have a foundation, and also I would think you would understand why someone would want you guys to get back together.
Well, we understood that.
They have a strong message.
But we were also when we like broke up. It was mostly so Walter could do Quicksand and try a different avenue. And I wanted to continue doing it, but we had a discussion, and it was like, I don't want you to do this without me. Mm-hmm. This was our thing. And it sucked for me because I was, we were doing good. We were playing good shows, and I was enjoying it. But I understood that it was us. It wasn't me.
Wow.
It
Right.
wasn't him.
Yeah, no, that's
Wow,
great.
so you were able to put your ego aside?
Well, you forcibly, but yeah, I've always tried to keep my ego in check, and
Wow.
I did not consider myself anything
Unbelievable.
very important.
And you did well with another band too.
Well, that was,
Yeah.
but again, that was with, I didn't do any other bands. I got, after Gorilla Biscuits broke up, I used to get these phone calls with all these, talented people saying, let's do something. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, I had my band, I had my time. And then Walter, the only reason why I did the Civ thing was because of Walter, again, because he was like, listen, hardcore is moving in a really stupid direction. It's all about like hip hop and it's like tough guy shit. Let's just do 2 songs and put it out there and let them know that it still like could be like a positive thing and a cool thing and like a happy like melodic thing. And I was like, dude, I got my business open. Like, I'm working 7 days a week. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Because I had to put, like you said, I had to put my ego, I had to pack my ego, put it away. I had to put my aspirations of music away. So I started
and
tattooing.
That sound like your father?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like
Exactly.
Your father. And I want to talk about more stuff.
Oh, great. Thanks for blowing my head right there.
Yeah, that's now
Oh
you'll be able
boy,
to eat some
that's
cake
like
and
10
enjoy
years of therapy
Yeah.
just going down
Yeah,
the drain.
out
huh?
the
And
window.
it's free, totally free.
Thanks a lot.
And all you get is some cake. Well, the same thing for me, and my father was a baseball player and he was great at it in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And then he got married and didn't do it.
Mine got scouted too.
So we're going to talk about that in the break. And then when we come back, I want to also talk about how it's evolved where you're in video games and commercials and
Yeah, sure.
cartoons. But first, we want to hear from our friend Rachel Atchison, who we love and adore, with news you can use. Rachel?
Thanks so much, guys. This is Rachel Atchison with OG Talks News You Can Use. Today, we're going to talk about a new how-to guide, a report that Dr. Robert Osfeld from Montefiore up in the Bronx came out with a couple months ago that walks a hospital through creating a more plant-forward approach. So definitely Google that report and share it with your local hospital. Bellevue Hospital has a clinic called the Plant-Based Lifestyle Medicine Program, where they are transitioning patients away from diabetes and heart disease, obesity, and a number of other chronic diseases to be disease reversal. So this guide, this how-to guide from Osfeld is detailing how a hospital can make inpatient meals, can make their cafeteria healthier and able to facilitate that disease reversal. This is Rachel Atchison with OG Talks, News You Can Use.
Thank you, Rachel, so much for your incredible reports. We appreciate that. We're back. We were talking about music and before we took the break about parents and opportunities. And there was a time with your father, he was scouted for baseball.
Yeah, he was a baseball first baseman and a musician, but he was scouted in high school, and he thought the guy was kidding. So he never called the guy, never went out for a tryout. And then years later, at a pickup game, the guy came over and was like, "Hey, I remember you."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, can I try out now?" And the guy's like, "Nah, man, 4 years of no organized ball, like you're done.
Yeah,
it's
right.
it's like too
That's
late."
like using opportunity now, not later. Huh?
Well, that's what I mean. That's where I came with, the idea of, I didn't realize it until years later, but saying yes at the right time and to
Even
things.
if you're not sure completely, right?
Yeah, like,
Right.
Like imagine your first experience was not great with singing if you never pursued.
I mean, my first experience with singing was horrible. I was facing a wall in a garage in
Right.
Astoria, and like I didn't have any concept
I
of what I
think
was
that's
doing.
the best. I could picture that being amazing.
It was like
Facing the wall.
facing the wall in a garage, and in our first drummer's house. But things happen for a reason. I'm not a religious guy, but I do believe like in the universe, to a
there's
degree.
real spirituality. We met the other night before this is only the second time we've ever been together. There's a real spirituality here, and that we found that consistently in the friends and the people who come through here.
I think there's when you're involved in this, I don't know if it's just the vegan movement, but it's you're involved in something that's not normal. It's becoming more normal. So there's a camaraderie, there's a tightness, there's a loyalty to each other, and you're also like-minded people.
Right.
Absolutely, I can agree more. Like I always thought that I'm doing it for the food, but I also get so many positive vibes from people who come here, from people like you, Purcell, John, so many people, and Rick, I mean, lately.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so funny.
This is our
Lately.
producer.
And
yeah.
he runs the place, and he knows this. But the truth is we all come in here, we eat. The food is really healthy. The food is there's a positive vibe in here, and everyone ends up talking to each other at the different tables.
Yeah, like you didn't know Civ, right?
Yeah, but I
And
feel
you
like we've
came
known each
in,
other forever.
right.
Yeah.
Right. That's the way.
That's
that goes.
exactly like when we started the show. It's probably off the topic, but we were like, no, we are not going to do the interviews. We are going to just sit with these people that we would want to sit anyway together.
You know what
and
it
just
is?
talk.
Right, they were talking about some boner machine
Right.
the other night. Him and that kid Antony that you introduced the other night.
Yes.
I was just laughing my ass off, and
Well, that was I watched Game Changers,
right.
and I was like, this documentary is genius because what Earthlings, Cowspiracy, What the Health, if they didn't change your fucking mind about your diet, then I don't know. Like you just bury yourself. But but Game Changers, now it's like, what haven't we touched on? How do we get a man's ego, or and how do we make a man's ego? And I think women are smarter inherently, so they're not trying to. This isn't really so much about like women, except for the aging process. They kind of touch on how women are still powerful and breaking records in their 40s and Olympians. But they went for the dumb guy, the lowest common denominator, boners, and they showed what a plant-based diet does to your boner while you sleep, and they had a machine that registered it, and it changed minds. And I was like, this is going to be a fucking game changer.
You know, that's what makes, when I had first done raw foods, and I found out about all of a sudden, I'm older than you by probably 10 years. It's like, oh wow, you can get a boner again and get it, and it's like, well, I started telling my guy friends, like,
We
I
should
think
get a
that
really
raw
good
food
sponsor
vegan-
for this, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Brought to you by the Boner Patrol. You want to keep your soul? The Boner Patrol.
Making boners since 19.
Well, speaking of making
Soon
boners,
as I
it has
started to
nothing
use
do
boner
with it.
machine. I'm a different man.
All of a sudden, your music shows up in commercials, and how's that feel? Beavis and Butthead, which is one of the
Oh,
classic-
that was nerve-wracking.
In what way?
Well, Beavis and Butthead was known to just destroy a career and just take the piss
here
out of
we are.
anything you're doing, and
You
we're
mentioned Mike Judge.
no different Mike Judge.
Mike Judge, that's why.
Mike
it's
Judge,
kind of
not
interesting.
that guy. My friend Mike Judge, who sings for
Right.
Judge.
For George.
So it's just an unfortunate
Weird
parallel name.
coincidence. But anyway, back to
So I'll give you a little backstory. We did the two songs, and this is when Offspring, Green Day, punk rock was getting it. Nirvana kind of started it. Like alternative music and punk rock was getting onto MTV, and it was getting in malls. Marc Jacobs did a grunge line. You know what I mean? It was an ugly time. 90s were an ugly time for music. And again, I had already opened my shop. I was like, I'm good.
So tell people what was this
Oh,
song about.
Well, these are the two songs that I did with Walter, and I sang "Can't Wait 1 Minute More" in a
That's
shower.
Great song.
I just literally
Holy
sang it in a
shit.
shower in New Jersey, in my friend's recording in his apartment. So we just weren't going to put out a 7-inch. That was it. But the record companies and the A&R guys were so hot for anything coming out of like LA or New York that they could like latch onto. And then this dude who I knew, this guy Mike Gitter, and I knew him from Youth of Today tour in '87, and he was an A&R guy then, and he was like a metal guy. And I was not into metal dudes being in hardcore. Like I'm a dick, and I was just like, fuck this guy. What's he doing here? Why these guys need a manager? It's this California band, and I was just like, this is hardcore. We suffer. We don't
Right.
eat. We
We
do
don't
our
need
own shit. We
anybody.
load our own equipment. Fuck this. We don't need
Right.
anything. It's about the message. And everybody else is just like, well, man, you're kind of wrong, but whatever. So Mike shows up. This is like in like '95, and he shows up. Our friend Marco Siega, who actually became a pretty huge movie director and TV director. He was one of the guys that came out of hardcore and did really well. He was like, listen, I want to direct. I want to do this video. I have this concept. Let's write it. Let's do it. We sat over dinner. And then at the end of it, he was like, we're just going to all chip in like $5,000. And the three of us, me, Walter, and you, and we'll do this video. And I was like, yo, pump the brakes. I'm not chipping at $5,000 for shit. Like I'm done with the music thing. I'm you know, because inherently I don't want to say I'm an artist, but I draw, I paint. I guess I'm an artist, but I don't. That's what I want to do every day. Music wasn't a thing that I need to do every day. Music is like an extra bonus. So I was like, I'm good, man. I'm working. I got my thing, and then of course I got talked into it. I'm easy to get talked into stuff, and obviously I'm here.
Yeah,
right,
9
exactly.
o'clock
It's
in
fucking
the
9.
morning.
It's
You
9
and
o'clock,
me
and I'm
both.
sitting here. I'm easy to talk into. So we did the video, and this guy Mike Gitter was there, and I was like, "What's this fucking guy sniffing around about?" You know, but on paper we were good. It was like these guys, they write their own material. They've all toured extensively.
people,
We're
yeah.
experienced. We've recorded records. We don't have to tell them shit. So if we get them to do a record and put them on the road, it's a gimme. So we had 2 songs, never played a show, and this is how stupid like the music industry was. And they signed us to a 2-record deal at Atlantic.
Right.
And we never played a show.
Wow.
But it was like, you know, and it's a bum out because there are people that work and write and do all this shit for years and years and years, but they don't know how to do it. They're not really doing it, like they're not just taking the bull by the horn and saying, fuck it, like I'm gonna play shows, I'm gonna go out on the road and tour. So we did all that, so our track record was good. So they trusted that we would be, you know, a viable, you know, risk. And then we were like, okay, so then we, you know.
So how do you get to the point in cartoons and in...
You have, you don't sell your publishing and you own it, and then Nissan will contact you and say, hey, we want to use this catchy pop song to sell cars. And you're just like,
What's your first instinct?
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Like, you know, how much? And then it's just like, holy shit, this is real money. And, you know, you're able to do stuff. I mean, I got divorced and I got hit with like a $20,000 cash buyout to not be married to me anymore, which is insulting. It's like, it takes $20,000 not to be married to me. This is hurtful. But when
I'm $25,000 at least.
that's nothing, right?
Yeah.
And people told me, they were like, dude, take that. That's a great deal. And I'm
Yeah.
like, but still, it's hurtful.
Yeah, of course.
But then we sold the song to a Crayola commercial. I had to sing different lyrics.
Mhm.
It was for the second Civ
I
record.
like blue.
Yeah, it was just like, I want to see things differently. It's like whatever it was, but I sang it, and that was really annoying because they had me on a 3-way while I was singing, and in my cans I could hear the woman who was going to greenlight it giving a critique, and her dude giving a critique.
Oh, wonderful.
And coming from
That's
a
an
hardcore scene, it
inspiration.
was just like, go fuck yourselves.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I had the other 2 dudes in the band like through the glass going like,
Please, I need this money to
don't
divorce.
fuck this up, don't fuck this up. You know? So I chilled out and I did it. But the cartoon thing I didn't even know about until someone told me. And that stuff is just like, you know, it's funny.
Recognition.
I mean, you know, it goes one ear out the other.
Okay, now, unfortunately, I know we could talk for another hour, and I think we should
I'm coming back.
do another hour. Before we go, because we have to go, but I want you to just talk about, so people know about the tattoo place.
Oh, I've been tattooing since I started tattooing in '92 on 5th and B, and I've had a shop in Long Island for 25
What's the
years.
name of the shop?
Lotus Tattoo. We don't have
And
to
you
pitch
don't
it. It's
you don't
fine.
want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Come on.
everybody knows I tattoo.
Yeah, no, they do, but people who
Lotus
don't know
Tattoo in Sayville.
in Sable.
I'm great at it.
Honestly, I heard
He didn't
so
wanna
many
say
good things
Sable.
about it. Like all people from the scene, they're like, "Oh, you should see job." And that's how I'm not into tattoos.
You should see my woodworking.
Yeah,
That's where
and
my
I
real
also
heart is.
saw your drawings. Amazing.
You should see me
amazing
water
stuff.
ski.
Oh, that's even better.
That's my new
Wow.
thing.
Yeah.
I learned that this summer.
Oh, that's good. Well, we definitely want
But
you back.
I'm curious.
Well,
Like, did
there
you
goes the
just
say goodbye.
one last? Did you ever tattoo Gorilla Biscuit?
Oh yeah, I used to separate it, and I wanted to be known for tattooing. In the beginning, nobody gave a shit about the music thing, or they would assume, like people who knew the band assumed I sucked at tattooing, and then people who liked my tattooing, they were like, "Oh, that's cute. You had a band? Must have." So I always separated it, and then one day I was just like, "Okay, these 2 worlds are just too intermingled. I have to just embrace it."
And I noticed Eddie Rose, your daughter's.
I got
we talked about before.
Annabella on one side and Eddie Rose on the other
That's
side.
really
my
wonderful. Like I
daughters.
said, we got to do another one of these. We'll do them later in
Yeah,
the day.
we'll do it.
We'll make that work. But it was such a pleasure. You know, we had never met, and I was telling Vlad, I don't know what we're going to talk about, but now we can easily do another hour.
Oh my God, I
Really
could do 24 hours of stories.
Yeah, that's really great. Civ, such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Glad, thank you.
Thank you. I
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Thank you for the coffee and the delicious raw desserts.
Yeah, and
And for some food to go.
we'll give you food to go.
I gotta do work around the corner. I'll need some food.
Right. So if you enjoyed what you saw today, please write in and review the whole thing. If you
Ask
didn't like what you
questions,
saw
subscribe.
we'll at least go to Sayville.
Only
This is-
positive reviews though. No,
Yeah.
we don't need any rough critiques.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't want to hear anything in our
And we
can.
don't want to know
Yeah.
that Steve is a dick. We already established
Yeah.
that. So
We
don't
know
say
that.
it.
Why has he always got that same sweatshirt and pants on?
Yeah.
Doesn't he change his clothes?
For Organic Grill and Vlad and Civ, I'm Eddie Brill. Thanks so much for joining
Thank you
us.
guys.
Thank you.